When you think about taking a cruise and choosing what port to sail out of, what's the first place you think of? Florida? Texas? California? What about New York City? Today, I'm back with another cruise port guide, and this time we're going to talk about sailing from the New York metropolitan area. You've actually got 3 different cruise ports to choose from, and I'm going to cover everything you need to know to get your cruise experience started the right way. Hi everyone, I'm Jamie from Sharon Travel. Thanks for joining me today to talk about cruising from the New York metropolitan area. We're going to cover the 3 different cruise ports, how to get to the cruise ports if you're not local to the area, where to stay before or after your cruise, and a few things you're definitely going to want to check out while you're in town. So let's get started. When thinking of cruising from New York, most people think about cruising from Manhattan in New York City, but you actually have 3 different cruise ports to choose from. You have the Manhattan Cruise Terminal, located right on the Hudson River off 12th Avenue in an area known as Hell's Kitchen. But don't let the name scare you, it's a pretty nice part of the city. You also have the smaller Brooklyn Cruise Terminal across the East River in New York City, located in the Red Hook neighborhood of Brooklyn, and it sits on the Buttermilk Channel across from Governor's Island. Lastly, you have the Cape Liberty Cruise Port, located across the Hudson River in Bayonne, New Jersey. That's right, it's located in New Jersey, but it's considered part of the New York cruising landscape. Now, all 3 of these cruise terminals are just about a 45-minute drive from each other, depending on traffic, and most people consider all these terminals as cruising from New York, like I mentioned. Cape Liberty will exclusively handle Royal Caribbean Group-owned cruise ships, which includes Royal Caribbean as well as Celebrity Cruise Lines. The Brooklyn Cruise Terminal is currently used by MSC, Cunard, and Princess Cruise Lines, and the Manhattan Cruise Terminal will host a variety of cruise lines such as Norwegian, Carnival, Disney, Viking, Holland America, Silversea, Oceania, and more. All 3 of these cruise terminals offer dedicated cruise berths or piers and terminals specifically for handling cruise passengers. If you're one of the lucky ones that gets to drive to your cruise instead of flying in, you'll find parking available at each cruise terminal. But as with most things in that part of the country, you can expect to pay a premium for daily or weekly parking. Research shows Cape Liberty might be a little bit cheaper, but you can expect to average about $45 a day for parking when cruising from New York, and it's highly recommended that you make parking arrangements ahead of time for any of these cruise ports. We have not used any cruise parking in the New York area, so I would encourage you to spend some time researching what option is best for you between cruise port parking or off-site locations that might offer some sort of shuttle to the port. Now, space can be limited, and you do not want to arrive on cruise day morning with nowhere to park. On a side note, make sure you go to the correct port when cruising from New York. I can't tell you the amount of stories that I've come across while doing research for this video where people go to the Manhattan terminal instead of the Brooklyn terminal or vice versa on the day of the cruise. Make sure you have the address as well as the pier or berth information when heading to your cruise ship on embarkation morning. Now, real quick, if you're new to the channel and you're enjoying the content, please consider subscribing with notifications on. Maybe give the video a thumbs up while you're at it and share it with family or friends that might be cruising from the New York area. My family and I have been sharing our cruise vacations for many years online, and you'll find plenty of cruise vlogs, tips, reviews, and more on our YouTube channel. And if you're in the market for an extremely knowledgeable and experienced cruise professional to help you book your next cruise, contact my much better half, Sharon, directly at sharonatsea@gmail.com. She can book any cruise on any cruise line from any cruise port to anywhere. She's one of the best in the business, and I swear I'm not just saying that because she's my wife. Now let's get back to that cruise port information. If you're not a local that's driving to the port, then I've got good news for you. When it comes to flying to the New York area, you have a lot of options. There are 3 major kind of international airports surrounding these 3 cruise ports. Starting with the smallest, you have LaGuardia Airport, which is primarily a domestic flight airport, but does have limited international flights. LaGuardia is located in Queens, New York, just northeast of New York City. It's about a 40 to 55-minute drive to either New York cruise terminal, depending on traffic, and services a number of major airlines like Delta, American, Southwest, United, Frontier, and more. Then you have John F. Kennedy Airport, better known as JFK. It's the largest airport in the area, and it's one of the top 10 busiest airports in the United States, predominantly known as a major airport option when traveling overseas from the Northeast and the East Coast. Now, JFK will service almost any airline you could think of, with one exception. you won't be able to catch a flight on Southwest Airlines to or from JFK. JFK is also located in Queens, New York, but it's in the southeast area of Queens, about 16 miles from Midtown Manhattan. JFK is about an hour drive, give or take a little bit of time, to either New York cruise terminal depending on traffic and the time of day. If it's rush hour, it's early in the day, later in the day, that's when you're going to run into the most traffic, and that ride can take a little bit longer. If you're heading to the Cape Liberty Cruise Terminal, you can certainly fly into either one of these airports, LaGuardia or JFK, and make your way across the river to the cruise port. But you'll have another option, and that is to fly into Newark Airport in New Jersey, a major metropolitan airport that services that area. Again, you'll find most major airlines flying in and out of Newark, but again, with one exception, no Southwest Airlines here either. As far as getting around once you arrive at any of these airports, you'll have many similar options between the three. Taxi, Uber, or Lyft are certainly the quickest ways to get from the airport to your final destination, whether it's a cruise port or a local hotel the day before your cruise. Prices for these methods of travel will vary greatly depending on the distance you're traveling and the time of day or the traffic you have to get through. Now, yes, all the rumors you've heard are true. New York can have insane, crazy traffic, kind of the same as Los Angeles might. Now, keep in mind that taxis will be prevalent at these three airports, and their pricing might be the most consistent, while Uber or Lyft pricing will go up and down based on supply and demand and the traffic. You'll have additional ways you can choose to travel. Trains, buses, and other means of public transportation will always be available, although if you're new to the area and carrying your luggage and you have your family in tow behind you, you may not want to take on that kind of challenge. If you're cruising solo, you can definitely look into some of the different options going from the airports directly into Midtown Manhattan. Now, if you're flying in the morning of your cruise, don't take this the wrong way, but let me be the first to say good luck to you. The potential for delays into this area of the country is high, and I would expect your stress level to be equally as high that morning. But by all means, if that is your only option, go for it, and I wish you luck. Hope everything goes smoothly for you. We always highly recommend flying into town the day before your cruise whenever you can to avoid any travel or lost luggage delays. The morning of your cruise, you may find transfers or shuttles that are provided by your cruise line that'll pick you up and take you to the cruise port. A one-way cruise ship shuttle transfer from a New York area airport to the local cruise port can start at about $45 a person. In most cases, your flight also has to arrive by 12 noon, and if there's a delay, you may be on your own to figure things out. For solo cruisers, this might be the way to go, but if you have two or more in your group, then you need to start weighing your different options. You can also make private shuttle arrangements to be picked up as well, so there are many ways to get from the airport to the cruise port. It really comes down to timing and your budget. Whatever you do, if you're flying in the morning of your cruise, make sure you have a plan B just in case something goes wrong. Maybe even a plan C, and while you're at it, you should throw a plan D in there as well. Okay, so we covered getting to the New York metropolitan area and then getting from the airport to the cruise port. But let's say you're one of the many people that want to extend your vacation a little bit and want to fly in a day or more before your cruise and check out what the Big Apple has to offer. Well, now the options are endless. First, if you're just coming in a night before, the cheapest option might just be to get a hotel room near the airport and make your way to the cruise port in the morning. Basically, all the same travel options are available, and technically, you could still catch the cruise line shuttle by heading from your hotel back to the airport and getting dropped off and grabbing the shuttle to the ship from there. Airport hotels may offer free shuttles, and that's a great way to save a few bucks going back and forth. Another option is to get a hotel closer to where your cruise ship is sailing from. If you're sailing from Manhattan or Brooklyn, you'll find a number of options pretty close to the cruise port. If leaving from Cape Liberty, not so much right near the port, but tons of locations within 3 to 10 miles of the cruise port, and that does include hotels in New York City as well. Most travelers looking to spend some time in the area before their cruise are looking for that New York City experience. Checking out the Big Apple, Times Square, getting all the sights, sounds, and smells of the big city. Now, these folks might want to look into hotels right in Midtown Manhattan. We stayed at the Hampton Inn on 8th Avenue, which unfortunately is no longer a Hampton Inn, but the area was great and very convenient to get around the city. And we also stayed before at the Embassy Suites in Times Square. Again, great location, close to so much, but of course, the closer to the city that you stay, the more money you're going to spend. You'll be hard-pressed to find a name brand hotel chain in Midtown Manhattan for under $250 a night, and probably closer to a starting point of $300 or more, to be honest. You can go outside the Midtown area like Brooklyn or Queens to save a few bucks, and there is another great option, and it's where we stayed before our last cruise out of New York City. Now, even if you're there for New York City, just stay across the river in New Jersey. Now, don't get me wrong, you won't save a fortune staying in New Jersey, but on our last cruise out of the New York area, we had a 2-night stay and saved just over $100 a night in our New Jersey hotel versus a comparable hotel in Midtown Manhattan. Now that time we stayed at the Homewood Suites by Hilton in Edgewater, New Jersey, and it turned out to be a great location for us. There were places to eat nearby, easy transportation into Manhattan, including a ferry that took us right across the Hudson River into the city and back again that night. No matter which port you're sailing out of in the New York area, hotels won't be cheap, but with a little extra research and by expanding your search area, you can find a hotel that'll fit your budget and get you to all the hot spots fairly easily. Speaking of getting to all the hot spots, let's talk about a few of the things you might want to see or do while you are spending a few days in the New York area, either before or after your cruise. Now, if it's your first time visiting New York, it can be a bit overwhelming trying to fit in all the sightseeing in a short amount of time. That's another reason to weigh the cost and location of your hotel versus what you want to do and where you want to go. If you stay in the city, you can easily walk or take the subway to many different sites and places that you might want to check out while you're there. If you choose to stay outside the city, you can still get into the city easily and then go on from there. Once you're into the Manhattan area, the subway will be the easiest way to get around. If you do a little research and you take the time to get familiar with the subway before your trip, managing the subway will be a lot less stressful when you get there. When we did it as a family, we always had Google Maps at the ready and it would lead us everywhere we wanted to go. It told us what street we wanted to go towards, what subway station, what subway car. I mean, it held our hand the whole way and it worked great for us. On our last visit, when we stayed in New Jersey, we Ubered into the city from our hotel in Edgewater. Then we went to Central Park for the afternoon. We found a great sports bar to watch a football game with friends. We did some sightseeing before enjoying some of the best pizza in the city at Joe's Pizza on Broadway. And then we made our way to the ferry to cross back over the Hudson River and back towards our hotel. On previous visits, when we stayed near Times Square, we made our way down to Battery Park in Lower Manhattan and took the 15-minute ferry ride over to Liberty Island to climb the Statue of Liberty. We also went to the 9/11 Memorial, which was one of the most moving experiences we've ever had. We spent time in Times Square sightseeing and shopping, and then we headed to Greenwich Village, and we went in search of what some say is the best pizza in New York at John's of Bleecker Street, and yes, it was amazing. Even Matthew loved it. There is so much more to see and do in New York City. Take a guided tour, visit St. Patrick's Cathedral, check out one of the many museums, maybe take in a Broadway play, go to a local sporting event, check the schedule at Madison Square Garden for a concert, climb the Empire State Building, take a Hudson River cruise at night and see the amazing New York City skyline lit up in all its glory. There are a ton of things to see and do in New York, and with a little pre-trip planning, you will be able to make the most out of your Big Apple experience. By the way, I know they call it the Big Apple. Does anyone out there know why? If you do, jump in the comments and let me know, why do they call New York City the Big Apple? Let's see if you get it right. And we've covered a lot of things about cruising out of the New York metropolitan area, but finally, my last tip for your cruise experience out of New York City is do not, I repeat, do not miss the sail away. This is especially true of sailing from the Manhattan cruise terminal because the views you will have will be fabulous. The cruise ship passing by the Statue of Liberty on its starboard side will be amazing, and the city views on the port side will be fantastic. If you leave from Brooklyn or Cape Liberty, you might not get that Statue of Liberty view, but as you sail away from the city and into the New York Harbor, you'll pass through an area they call the Narrows, and you will sail underneath the massive Verrazano Bridge that connects Brooklyn to Staten Island as you head out to the Atlantic Ocean and begin your journey. It is a fantastic sailaway experience that you do not want to miss. Now, whether you're cruising south along the East Coast to Nassau in the Bahamas, or heading to Bermuda, or maybe going north on a New England and Canada adventure, or maybe you're embarking on a transatlantic cruise across the pond, as they call it, cruising out of the New York area is an awesome experience, and taking a few extra days to soak in all that the city has to offer will only make your cruising memories that much better. Now listen, before you jump out of the video, do me a favor, will you make sure that you pop into the comment section below the video and share something that you either loved about sailing out of New York or something that you're totally looking forward to seeing or doing on your upcoming cruise from the New York metropolitan area. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video and maybe you're feeling a little bit more confident when it comes to making your way around the big city. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.